I need so much energy in this place right now because I'm about to bring out the man, the myth, the legend himself. Maz Jobrani!
Kia ora, hi, salam o durud to you all listeners from all over the world. I'm joined by a legend who's made audience laugh from LA to the Middle East and recently right here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. You've seen him on stage, on screen. He's an actor, stand-up comedian, a producer, a writer, and, the list goes on. He's bringing clever cultural commentary to life. Maz Jobrani, welcome to Podcast Zafaruni.
Hi, Amirjun. Are we going to do it in English or Farsi?
In English, like your shows, always in English.
Okay, let's go. Thanks for having me.
Honored to have you. You traveled from the Northern Hemisphere to the Southern Hemisphere. How was it for you to board on the airplane in summer and exit it in winter?
It was so hot in Los Angeles that it was a relief to get your winter. It's kind of nice, but then the reverse is shocking to the system because you're on that airplane coming back from winter and you land in Los Angeles and it was hot at like 6 a.m. And I thought, oh my gosh, here we go again. So I enjoy coming down there during your winter, but one of these years I got to come during the summer and see what it's like.
Maz, what a night it was. Not all the stand-up comedians have a style of walking onto the stage, but your entrance is epic. The hype for your performance is already there, and with your special Persian dance, you build it even more. Are you constantly adopting your moves to match the song you choose?
Amir, I wish I had more moves than I do when I go on stage. I've been doing the same moves for the past 15 years, but different songs. This time we're doing Azizam, Ed Sheeran's Azizam. And I whenever I'm on tour, I like to come out with that energy because, as you know, my opening act, Tehran, he's very funny. He's got good high energy. So we just keep the energy going and we do the dance number. And then then from there, it just goes. So it's a good way to just wake people up again and have them pay attention because you really want people to be focused on you. So I enjoy coming out. And one of these days, Amir, I will hire a choreographer to give me new dance moves.
Your Belarzun, Sinato Belarzun, is fantastic. So please do not skip that part.
Merci. Thank you. Your eyes see Belarzun well.
What's the first thing you noticed when you walked onto the Q Theatre in Auckland, New Zealand?
To be honest with you, I really like that theater because as comedians, we want the audience to be close. And the way the theater was designed was obviously the people seated in front of you all the way up, and then there was people on the sides. So as a comedian, we love that. And so when Tehran and I both walked in, we said, oh, this is a nice theater. And just that adds to the energy. The worst thing for a comedian is if you do a show, it's outside, it's a lot of people. And when you tell the jokes, the laughter goes into the air. But in a theater like this, where you're surrounded, the laughter bounces around and is contagious. And so I really like that theater and I hope to play it again when I'm back.
Looking forward to it. Is there something uniquely New Zealand you'll remember?
This time in New Zealand, I didn't get a chance to spend that much time. We were there for like less than 24 hours, but I've been to New Zealand several times before. I was there with my family. And when you're there with your family, you try to enjoy everything you can. So we went to the hot springs. We went to the museum in Auckland. One year without my family, we actually went to Queenstown and I went skiing, which was really cool. New Zealand, as you know, is just a beautiful, beautiful country. And Auckland's a beautiful city. So I always feel like I'm breathing in fresh air when I'm there. The only problem you have is your green lights turn red very fast. So every time a car goes, like 2 cars in, they stop. I go, So that's the only problem I have.
And the city is not that big, so I haven't figured it out yet as well. You've performed all over the world. What's the biggest curveball, especially in the cultural matter, that you've had to navigate on stage?
One thing you realize is that a lot of material, if you're talking about your family or yourself, a lot of that translates all over the world. So I've done shows from the Middle East to Europe to Asia to New Zealand to Australia. I remember one time when I was a little intimidated, I was doing a show in Indonesia, in Jakarta, Indonesia, as part of a comedy festival. And I was backstage, and, you know, the audience was mostly Indonesians. There was just, you know, a handful of others, but it was mostly Indonesians. And I'm backstage, and I'm going, oh my God, what can I say that, you know, how far can I push the envelope? Can I use bad words? Can I not use bad words? And the guy who was on before me, who was one of their big local comedians, was doing a very dirty set, like just, you know, just all sexual material. And they were laughing. And I was backstage going, oh, okay, good. I'm free to do whatever I want. So, you know, you sometimes worry, but in the end, comedy audiences just want to laugh. And now, because of social media, people all over the world have seen comedians from all over the world. So you really can, you know, I think it translates.
You're absolutely correct. But there's always someone, or maybe a couple of people, who might take the jokes personally or as an offense, you know, or some of them might try to, I don't know, say something funny, for example, to make themselves to be picked on. But your reaction to those situations is outstanding. You somehow turn the mood upside down and you take their word as a joke so all the audience can relate to and they start laughing. How did you start working those intense situations that might be awkward?
Yeah, you know, stand-up comedy is interesting because we're having a conversation with the audience. You know, when you're a musician, you're playing your song, you know, audience is screaming, but they're not talking to you. They're dancing, screaming. But in stand-up comedy, they can talk to you because there's moments in the show where things get quiet and they can talk. So that's a muscle that comedians learn to use as we do it over and over and over again. So after 27 years of doing this, doing shows at, like, you know, 1:45 in the morning when the club's going to close at 2 in the morning, you learn to talk to the audience. And then the thing that you learn is a lot of comedians, some comedians are considered more insult comedians. So if somebody says something, they go rip into them. Some comedians have generic comebacks. They say something, you have your generic comeback, you know, shuts them up. I once saw, there's a comedian named Dave Attell at the Comedy Store in the original room, and somebody was saying something and the crowd started saying boo, boo. And then Dave Attell says, no, let's hear what he has to say. And then the guy said it again, and the guy just sounded so stupid that Dave Attell allowed him to dig his own grave, basically. He's like, let the guy just, you know, hang himself with his own words. And I watched that. I go, you know what? I like that way better because I'm not an insult comedian. I'd rather hear what you're saying and then let's see where it goes. And 9 times out of 10, what they're saying is, you know, going to be funny to the audience because they're saying something nonsensical. And then once in a while, you know, you take it and you run with it, and that makes those live performances special because we come with our act, but when we interact with people in the middle of the show, that changes that show in particular because whoever's there is experiencing that.
I can't agree more. I remember one particular moment in Auckland that the joke went on one of the audience, and then the other audience started to make fun of that particular person. And that was so funny. But the way that you approach with this situation, it's fantastic. Again, regarding the audience, it's sometimes you pick someone from the front seat, and then you say something to someone in the middle of the crowd. And then from the right side, you pick on someone from the other side. And you somehow, with your material, connect those 3 people together and make something funny out of it. Is it something that you always do, like by improvisation, or is it coming by practice?
There's no guarantee that that's going to happen every night. Some nights you're on stage, you do your act, the audience listens, you go home. But some nights you start talking to them and they say something that relates to the next person, that relates to the next person. And the truth is, I think I have the ability in that hour to pay attention to people's names and keep it going because your adrenaline is flowing and people are watching you. And so for that hour, I'm good at remembering all that stuff. But then afterwards, a lot of times I don't remember it. So there's times where I've done that in the past, and then someone will come to a show, let's say a year or two later, and they'll say, "Hey, I'm Mike. Remember you made fun of me?" And I go, "I don't remember you, Mike. I'm so sorry." So in the moment, I'm able to connect it when needed.
And speaking of adrenaline, comedy tours aren't exactly the restful retreats. How do you keep your energy sharp night after night? When I saw you before your performance, you had travel and you had performance like every night. I don't know how many hours you slept. I thought, oh, this guy must be really exhausted. But you came to the stage as if like you had the perfect rest, 8 hours sleep. You woke up in the morning, did your yoga, and you're fully there for the performance. How do you do it?
I think it's kind of you learn to pace and do what you got to do when you got to do it. So I'm very good at sleeping. So when we get on the airplane, I try to sleep from one place to the next. When we land at the city, we go check in at the hotel. I don't go sightseeing. I go sleep again and try to wake up a couple hours before the show. And then that becomes my morning, basically. And then the show happens and then we go out afterwards. And the hard part, like you said, is when you have a new city every day, that gets exhausting because it's just, you're not really getting the rest that you need to get. But it's part of what we do, and I've gotten really good. I can sleep seated in a car. I can sleep, any position on an airplane. I'm very good at sleeping.
I'm the exact opposite. Anything moves, I'm like this. I can't. So is comedy something that you are born with, or can it be trained?
I think it helps if you have the ability or talent when you're born, but you can also learn, and it's also hard work. So some people are really good comedy writers because they just put in the time. They put in the time, and you give yourself permission to be bad early on. You're not going to be funny right away. So you write, and before you know it, you figured out your voice, and then before you know it, you're writing funny jokes for yourself. And so I think it's a combination of both. I personally was a big fan of comedy from when I was young. I grew up in America. I was born in Iran, grew up in America. And when I was a kid, Eddie Murphy was the superstar comedian at the time. And I used to watch him, and then I started watching other comedians, and I just loved stand-up comedy. It's something that I would go see live when I could. And I was intimidated about trying it because it's a little intimidating because you go, oh my God, what happens if the audience doesn't laugh? But then you realize the audience, there's going to be many nights when the audience doesn't laugh. As soon as you realize that it's going to take time, then you're at ease. You go, okay, I'm not going to be upset if a year in, no one's laughing. 2 years in, no one's laughing. 5 years in, no one's laughing. 10 years in, they start laughing. So that's really kind of what you have to do. You got to put in the time.
Maz, you've done TED Talks, acted in Hollywood, and toured globally. What's one thing that stand-up gives you that nothing else does?
I love doing what I do, and I tell people all the time that if you're able to find what you love doing, you really should go for it because you live once. And I tell parents to let their kids do what their kids love doing, again, because they live once. So no matter what happens, I've been doing this for 27 years. I haven't had a day where I was, on stage or about to go on stage where I was just, regretting it and going, oh God, I wish I had something else. Whereas before I became a stand-up comedian, my Iranian parents had wanted me to be a lawyer. Then I was going to be a professor. And then I had a job in an advertising agency. And there was days I'd be driving to work and I would rather be anywhere but in an office. I was like, I hate this. But the opposite for comedy. I mean, I really have not had a moment where I said, I don't want to do this. I've always, you get excited. You love doing it. And again, if you find what you love doing, just do it. Don't worry about the results. Just keep doing it. You'll get better and better. You'll enjoy it. And as long as your time allows you to do it, then just do it.
So if we want something so badly, is it enough to drive us to success?
Not necessarily. That's the problem. The success. So it's about how you define success. I don't think success necessarily means you're making money. Success means you're doing it. For me, I always say when I first started doing it, I was successful. And then everything that's come afterwards has been bonus. It's been icing on the cake. I never expected to be in the movies I've done. I never expected to be on the TV shows I've done. I never expected to be touring the way I have. I wanted it. I definitely had it as a goal, but I didn't think, oh my God, if I don't reach these things, then I'm unsuccessful. So I think that's a key part of it, is just to say, look, just doing it makes me feel good, and therefore I'm successful. You might say, oh, I want to play guitar. Great. Start learning it. Now you're really good at it. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be touring around the world making money doing it. You might have to just do it at home, or you may have to, go on the streets and make money on the streets. But again, I think success is doing the thing, and then everything else is the bonus.
I love that definition. And as you mentioned, it is really obvious that you really enjoy what you are doing. Do you think migration would help some of us to pursue our dreams, especially the Persian/Iranian culture, whom always try to compare their kids to another ones? Oh, look at your cousin. He's a doctor. You should be a doctor. So there's always an expectations from others. Once we migrate to another country, we see no restriction. Do you think migration would help that?
Yeah, I think anybody who's in a culture, whether it's Iranian or Indian or Chinese or Eastern European, whatever, where the family and the parents are very involved, it's obviously a very freeing experience to go to a different country, a different culture, and really have the world at your disposal. You can do whatever you want. So obviously being far from that energy that's saying, do this, do this, do this. I mean, to the point where some cultures say, marry this person, have your kids now, work for your father. And so obviously that's limiting, putting you in a box. But when you leave and you go somewhere else, those people aren't around, those voices aren't around. And so you feel like you can do it. Sometimes people do these things that they want to do without even telling their parents back home, because they're worried their parents are going to stop them from doing it. However, you can still be in a country where you have parents that are like that, or family that's like that. And I think once you come to the realization that you live once and it's your life, and you should not live to please anybody else, not your mother, not your father, not your wife, not your husband, not your kids. You need to please, make yourself do what you want to do, because you live once. You don't want to be 80 years old on your deathbed and saying, I wish I would have, started painting. I wish I would have traveled more. Do it now, because you're not going to have time later. So once you come to that realization, that was a realization for me, because again, I had so much pressure to not get into this comedy world. And again, when I was in around 26 years old is when I really realized, I go, oh my gosh, this is my chance. I have to do it now. And I did it. And I'm very happy I did.
I'm so happy that you did it as well. You've played everything from a donut shop owner to a security guard. Jimmy Westwood. I love that joke. What's the weirdest role you've ever turned down, and why?
The weirdest role I've ever turned down. There was a time where, so being Iranian or being from that part of the world, 26, 27 years ago when I first started, the types of roles that would come your way sometimes would be terrorist parts. And so early on in my career, I actually did a couple of those. And then I really had a bad taste in my mouth about it. And I thought, no, I don't want to do this. So I stopped doing it. But there was a time, to your point, of saying no to a part. Again, since I was Middle Eastern, I would get called about it and say, oh, there's this part. So these guys, there was this conservative writer or show creator who'd come up with what he felt was the answer to the Daily Show. If the Daily Show leans left, he wanted to do comedy that leans right. And he had a sketch where the Twin Towers in New York had been, flown into, the planes had flown into Twin Towers. And years later, they were looking to rebuild it, which they did. And so this guy had a sketch where architects are coming in to pitch their idea for the new design for the Twin Towers. and they had a Middle Eastern guy come in, and his design was all very racist. He was saying like, oh yeah, we should build a building and then we put a bullseye on it, which basically is saying like, so that we can fly into it again. And I read it. I go, first of all, this isn't funny. And I said, secondly, this is insulting. And I said, thirdly, I'm not going in. And thank God that never even, I don't think it even made it on air. So you see things like that sometimes. And it's good to be able to say no, because, what else are you going to say? You're going to end up doing it and you feel like an idiot.
Kudos to you. Maz, if I were a fly on the wall watching your perfect post-show evening, what would I see?
You would see me, if I were in New Zealand, in Auckland, you would see me at the casino eating in the food court. That's the only place that was open that night. So yeah, usually after the show, we go somewhere to get a bite. Because like I was saying earlier, your schedule is kind of up and down. So you're a little tired. And I'm sorry, you're a little hungry and you still have energy. So you go eat. And so on this latest tour through Australia and into New Zealand, there was a lot of like late night kebab. We went to an Afghan place. We went to 2 Afghan places, 1 Iranian place, and then the casino, and then 1 Italian place. Our friends in Melbourne are, they're called Sushi Mango. They have their own thing. So we went to their restaurant one night too. So yeah, basically after the show, it's like, let's get together and talk and hang out and eat.
Absolutely. I can't agree more with eating. A very different question. If you could roast one historical figure, dead or alive, who would it be and what would be your opening line?
Oh my gosh, who would I roast? I don't know who I would roast. There's so many evil people from the past that you don't know. And then, by the way, I don't know if I want to roast them because they were evil. I would be honored to get a chance to roast Muhammad Ali because he was my hero when I was a kid. And that would be fun because he had a sense of humor. That would be an honor to do. So I'm going the opposite way. Rather than finding a bad person, I'm finding a person that I admire. And I wish I could write jokes to make him laugh. The opening line would be, I am the greatest. Because he would say he's the greatest. Yeah, I guess,
That's hilarious. And it's the same in your, I think, comedy shows as well. You usually pick on people that you like, not dislike. And usually people are like, oh, yeah.
I wouldn't even call it picking on. I'm just having a conversation with them. So that really helps because, I'm not picking on them to go, oh, look at you with your hair or with your clothes or whatever. I'm having a conversation and usually that conversation comes from me going into a joke and I say, oh, the doctor tells me I need to exercise 30 minutes a day. Does anybody here exercise 30 minutes a day? Somebody raises a hand. What do you do? And then, sometimes, oh, I run. Oh, that's great. Or sometimes, one time the guy said, I do Frisbee. I said, 30 minutes a day, you're doing Frisbee. So it becomes it's more like, it's not at all something where people should feel like they're being attacked. I think I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing with them.
I love that, again, definition. And as you mentioned earlier, there are different types of comedians. And I love that you laugh with people. And last but not least, your full special show, The Birds and the Bees, recently just passed 1 million views on YouTube. So congratulations. I've attached a link top here somewhere and in the description of this video as well. In the end of the show, you put something that I really appreciated and it was really inspiring. Was it your decision to put that part at the end of the stand-up?
Yeah, absolutely. When you do your special, you think about how to open it, you think about how to close it. And to me, that was something I want to put on there. It was also my sister, Maz Jobrani, who we lost to breast cancer in 2017. She was part of what you see at the end. And I think it's important if you have footage from the past to show where you started, you should do it. I think people appreciate it and people realize where you started because people see you usually at the end. They don't see the beginning. And so it's good to see the beginning because then if there's somebody who's a young comedian who's aspiring to be a comedian, they go, oh, wow, okay. He was doing these crappy, gigs as well or worried about things as well. And it hopefully will inspire them to feel like they can do it too.
100%. Maz, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for sharing the laughs, the behind the scenes wisdom, and a little bit of that comedy magic with us today. If there's any other words, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Amir June. I appreciate you having me. And do me a favor, open up a late night restaurant in Auckland. There's a market for it. You should open it up. So after the show next time, we come to your place.
You have my word for it. Thank you very much, Maz. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Amir June. Bye.